There is a question you have never asked out loud, not in the car, not even to the one person who loves you most. Why do I feel smaller after spending time with people I love? Let me say the plain thing first. Some rooms do not tire you. They make you disappear. You have kept the peace for 40 years. You have swallowed the first honest answer and offered the second one instead. You became the listener. You laughed before anyone could notice the hurt. Then you drove home and replayed every sentence. I am 87 years old. Before we are done, you will know the 5 quiet exchanges that spend your presence and the one dignified choice that keeps it. Come closer to the fire and sit a while. I am not telling you to cut anyone out of your life. I am not telling you those people are cruel or selfish or poison. Most of them are not. Most of them love you, and most of them have no idea what you handed over. And I am not telling you your body is quitting on you. What I am telling you is quieter than that and harder to see. Nobody reached in and took anything from you. You set it down yourself, piece by piece, out of love and out of long practice. How would you notice a hand that has been open that long? My grandmother used to say nobody loses themselves all at once. She said we give ourselves away in coins so small that nobody in the room ever hears one drop. A word held back at the table, an opinion folded up and put in a pocket, a laugh you did not mean. Not one of them is worth anything by itself, and that was her whole point. A thief takes something you notice is gone, she said, but a habit takes something you do not miss until the walk to the car. Then she would say the part I still carry. You are not worn out from being with people. You are worn out from being someone else the whole time you were with them. Every one of these 5 confessions is another way of spending the same coin. Before we begin, when did you last say the very first thing that came to your mind? So here is the first confession, and it is the one all the others grow out of. You edit every sentence before it leaves you. There was a man in my county named Walter. At his own daughter's supper table, he weighed each sentence twice before he let it go. Was it too sharp? Too long? Too much? By the time a sentence had passed all of his tests, it was smooth as a stone and about as full. Halfway through the meal, somebody asked him a straight question, and Walter opened his mouth and found nothing in it. He had measured so carefully that he could not remember what he meant to say. He went home fed and hollow. A river forced through a channel too narrow cannot carry its own water. It does not stop being a river. It stops arriving anywhere. My grandmother said a careful tongue can still lose its owner. The choice is small. One plain sentence, said once, with no defense hung on the end of it. Before the second confession, let me set one thing down beside you. It is a small book called The Native Way. Everything an old man learned about staying whole in a room full of people he loves is written in there. Slow, the way the two of us are talking right now. The sayings, the stories, the small choices that fit inside a single sentence. The link is in the description under this video. Is there any push in what I just said? No pressure at all. None from me. I will be right here whether you open it or not, tonight and tomorrow and the night after that. And if the only thing you ever take from me is what I say out loud for nothing, that is a good trade, and I am content with it. It is there if your heart wants it, and that is the last I will say about it. Now, let me give you the second confession, and I will tell you ahead of time that most of you will recognize this one before I finish the sentence. The second confession. You have made yourself responsible for the weather of the whole room. You know the feeling even if you never had a name for it. You are at the table, and part of you is not eating, it is counting. Is he quiet because of something I said? Is she hurt? Did that land wrong? Should I fill this gap? Nobody assigned you that job. You took it, probably before you were grown, in a house where somebody had to. And notice what that job costs before anyone has even said anything unkind to you. The unkindness is not the problem. The watching is. A person can sit 3 hours in a room where nothing at all went wrong and still stand up at the end of it emptied, because the whole 3 hours were spent on guard duty over other people's comfort. There was a woman named Ruth who always sat where she could see every face at once. If two people went quiet, she filled the space between them. If a joke landed badly, she smoothed it over. If a cup was low, she was up and pouring before anyone thought to ask. When the evening ended, every guest went home saying what a lovely time they had, and Ruth lay in the dark, going back over it, checking, still checking. They had been visiting. She had been working, and no one knew there was work being done, so no one could thank her for it or tell her to set it down. Out on the flat there is one cottonwood standing by itself, and if you watch it long enough you would swear it was trying to hold back every cloud that comes over the ridge. It can shade whatever stands under it. It cannot manage the sky. It was never asked to. My grandfather put it this way: you can offer shelter without promising the sky. So here is the choice. The next time a silence falls that is not hurting anybody, let it stand. Count to 5 and do not rush in. Watch what happens. Almost always nothing happens, and the silence closes itself the way water closes, and you will have spent none of yourself on it. The third confession, and this one costs the most for what it looks like from the outside. You laugh before anyone can ask whether the joke hurt. There was a man named Samuel, a good-humored man, well-liked everywhere he went. At a family gathering, a cousin made a remark about how much Samuel had slowed down since the surgery, and he made it in front of everybody. Before the room could decide how to feel about it, Samuel laughed. Then he did the thing he had done his whole life. He picked the remark up, sharpened it, and handed it back as his own joke, a better one, and the whole table laughed with him, and the evening moved along without a scratch on it. Do you know who Samuel had just protected? Everybody, including the cousin. He lifted an awkward moment off a room full of people and carried it out to the truck by himself, and he was still holding it at the stoplight, and he was still holding it at midnight. And here's the thing about that kind of quickness. It looks like strength. People will even praise you for it. They will say you can take a joke, that nothing ever gets to you. What they are praising is the speed at which you agree to be hurt in private. How many times has somebody called you easygoing on a night you drove home sore? It is like sweeping ash over a live coal. The surface goes gray and quiet, and everyone believes the fire is out. The heat is still under there, and it will still burn a hand at 2 in the morning. A wound does not close because the wounded one smiles. My grandmother said that, and she said it to a man who smiled a great deal. The choice here is one sentence, and it can be said without raising a voice and without making a scene. That did not sit well with me. 6 words. There is no accusation in them. You are not punishing anybody. You are declining to be the only one in the room who pays. The fourth confession. You leave carrying work that was never handed to you. Think of Mara, who went to a Sunday dinner and came home with 3 other people's troubles in her arms. Her sister's money, a neighbor's test results, a grandson who had quit something he should not have quit. Not one person at that table asked her to fix any of it. Most of them had already forgotten they mentioned it by the time they found their coats. Mara lay awake until 2 in the morning solving problems that were not hers to solve. And by morning she had solved none of them, and the night was gone, and there was still her own life waiting to be run. There is a way to tell whether a thing was handed to you or whether you picked it up. Ask who is losing sleep over it tonight. If the one whose trouble it is went to bed at 9, and you are still awake at 2, then somewhere between the dessert and the coat closet a bag changed hands and nobody said a word about it. My grandmother would have said she was gathering every stone beside the trail. Each one is small. Any single stone can be picked up without noticing the weight of it. It is not the stone that tells you. It is the mile. Compassion has hands, she said, but it also has a gait. Here is where people hear me wrong, so let me be careful. I'm not telling you to stop caring. Caring is the best thing about you, and I would not take it from you for anything. I am telling you that a person can care all the way down and still not accept an assignment nobody gave them. Listen fully. Look at the face in front of you. Say the true thing, that it sounds heavy and you are sorry. And then let the trouble stay where it lives, with the one whose trouble it is. Did anybody at that table ask Mara for a night of her life? No. She offered it silently, and then blamed herself in the morning for being so tired. The fifth confession, and of all five, this is the one I would not let you leave without. You apologize for needing room after the goodbye. There was a man named Eli who sat in his truck in his own driveway for 10 minutes with the engine off. His family was inside. The visit had been a good one. He loved every person in that house and would have said so to anybody who asked him. And still, he needed 10 quiet minutes before he could walk back through his own front door, and he spent 9 of them calling himself selfish for it. That is the cruelty of this last one. It arrives after the hard part is over. You survived the room, you did the editing and the weather and the laughing and the carrying, and then you charge yourself a fee for the recovery. Ask yourself what you actually believe about that quiet. Do you think a good person would not need it? Every living thing takes a breath in between. The horse that has run well stands in the shade afterward, and nobody in the field calls it ungrateful for the running. A man who needs his truck for 10 minutes is not a man who loves his family any less. He is a man who is still in it. Even a canyon gives an echo room to fade. The sound goes out, and it comes back, and then the rock lets it be quiet again. Nobody stands there and accuses the canyon of being cold. Rest after company is not rejection. My grandmother said that to me a long time ago, and I did not understand it for 30 years. So take the quiet. Take the 10 minutes in the truck, the long shower, the chair by the window with nobody talking in it. And here is the part that keeps it clean. You do not have to decide that anyone drained you in order to deserve it. You do not need a villain to justify a rest. Loving people is warm work, and warm work asks for a cool room afterward, and that is all it means. Now I want to say something before we gather all of this up, because I know how a list like this can land on a person. Naming these was not the same as hating myself for them. I learned that late. I have done more than one of these 5 at tables I do not sit at anymore, and when I finally counted them honestly, the counting did not make me smaller. It made me accurate. Accurate is a kinder place to stand than vague. Hear the difference, because everything rests on it. A habit is something a person does. It is not something a person is. You did not become small. You practiced smallness in rooms where smallness kept the peace, and you got good at it, the way anybody gets good at what they practice for 40 years. That is not a flaw sitting at the center of you. That is 5 habits out at the edges, and the edges are where a person can still reach. So do not sit there tonight, adding up all the years and calling them wasted. Would you say that to a friend who told you all of this at your own kitchen table? Of course you would not. You would tell them they were kind in a hard room for a long time, and that the kindness cost more than anyone warned them it would. Say it to yourself in the same voice you would use on them. So let me gather this up for you now, the way my grandmother gathered the ends of her shawl before she stood up from the fire. 5. You edit every sentence before it leaves you. You carry the weather of the whole room. You laugh before anybody can ask you whether it hurt. You take home work that nobody handed you. And you apologize for needing quiet after the door closes. Now carry them into your own week and ask the questions out loud, in your own voice, about your own life. Do I say my first answer, or the safe second one? Whose evening am I managing tonight, and who asked me to manage it? What did I laugh at last week that I did not think was funny? Whose trouble am I carrying up my own stairs? And when I need 10 minutes, do I take them, or do I apologize for them first? Whose permission have I been waiting for before I sit down in my own house? I know there is somebody watching who has gone quieter than the rest, and I know the question, because it is always the same one. Is it too late for me? I am 87 years old, and I will not stand here and promise you a result. I do not know your people, and I cannot tell you what any of them will do. What I can tell you is what age does not take. You can still notice one habit, just one, the one that made you sit forward tonight. And you can still make one ordinary choice the next time you are in the room. Noticing and choosing are the last two things to go, and you still have both of them. Now I would like to hear from you. Of the 5, which number hit closest to home? Say it down in the comments. The number by itself is plenty, though if you want to tell me the story behind it, I will read that too. I read every one of them. That is not a thing I say to be kind. It is how an old man spends his evening. And if sitting here was good for you, come back and sit with me again tomorrow. I will keep the fire going. Rest well tonight.